Hey, I want to let you know real quick before you listen to this episode. This episode was recorded a long time ago, so you're gonna hear Hot Fix. It's not the name anymore. Went through a name change. It's in post. You're listening to in post. So tune in, sit back, relax, have a good time.
Paranoia. That is the word that I would use for this movie.
Hey, let you know right now, this episode is intended for a mature audience. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey. Letting you know right now, this episode right here, spoiler warning. You don't want to know what I'm talking about? I wouldn't tune in. I'd wait. This is your warning. Hey, I told you. All right. Here we are. We back. Hot Fix, episode 2, whatever we're gonna call it. We're back. We've been watching some movies. Greg, what movies have we been watching?
We've been watching all types of movies. More recently though, we both had decided to sit down and watch the movie They Cloned Tyrone.
Yeah, They Cloned Tyrone, baby. We're not talking about the Erykah Badu song. No.
Oh,
They
no.
Cloned Tyrone is a whole movie on Netflix starring none other than John Boyega, Jamie Foxx, and none other than Teyonah Parris. And all these star-studded cast members, all things like that. You'll know Jamie Foxx from Jamie Foxx. I don't know if you don't know Jamie Foxx. That's crazy if you don't, but now you do. John Boyega, better known as the second Mace Windu we never got. He was supposed to be wielding that lightsaber, man. He was supposed to, but they didn't want it. They didn't want another Mace Windu. Too much power. Nah. And then Teyonah Parris, fairly new face. You'll most likely recognize her from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you watch WandaVision, she is Spectrum. She's going to be in the Marvels coming up in November, if that's still going to be happening. She is Spectrum, another superhero. Pretty dope actor. Whoopsies. I need to turn that off.
Shh, none of that in the movies.
Yeah, I bet. I didn't remember to turn off your ringers. But yeah, They Clone Tyrone. It's on Netflix, starring the star-studded cast of crew and people. Pretty much we're just going to get into it. So, Jeezy, what's this movie about?
Ooh, man. I'll be fair and I'll be honest up front. There's a rabbit hole you can go down with how do you interpret this movie? For me, let me just say that, I interpret it as more or less a thought experiment, but more or less like a social commentary, like what it really looks like living, let's just say it, like living in the hood. Like it's kind of a unique introspection as to what goes on, why do things go on, how do we find ourselves in the same cycle every day, how do we make sense of almost sometimes just feeling powerless and almost, I hate to say it, but a slave to our routines and the vice grip that culture does have on the larger world. So I don't know. It's a whole lot of don't listen to me, you know.
Yeah, like I said, it's a lot of good things. So let me set the groundwork for everybody real quick. They Clone Tyrone starts off with John Boyega's character, Fontaine. That's a smooth name right there. Fontaine.
Smooth as water.
Fontaine, he's just another dope boy pushing his stuff in the hood. Don't want to be pushing stuff in his hood because, that dude hit his car. Remember?
Yes. Somebody, it caught up with our boy Fontaine.
Fontaine was like, "Hey, man, you in the wrong place." That's what happens, man. You pushing your stuff in the wrong area. Nah, man.
And when we say hit him with the car, we mean literally dink this brother with the car. Messed up.
The brother hit his car. Remember, Fontaine was
like,
I
thought you were talking about the duty.
No, Fontaine was like, "Hey, man, you hit my car." That was funny.
That's right. I'm sorry.
And so it just goes through it starts off day in the life of, you got your dope boy doing dope boy things, keeping people off his block, pushing his stuff, making sure, everybody's staying happy. And then he ends up having to talk to Slick Charles, a.k.a. played by none other than Jamie Foxx. Hilarious little performance that Jamie Foxx had, man. Jamie Foxx, scene stealer all the time. He's so funny.
Masterful.
Slick Charles is just a pimp. He's got his pimp, got his hose, and he is the funniest man on the screen, and
it's not even close.
No. And so Fontaine goes up to him and is like, "Hey, man, give my money." And it's like, it was a whole thing. ends up getting the money. Then Fontaine gets shot up. And all of a sudden, next day, Fontaine's waking up like nothing's happened. He just goes to his next day-to-day things. And I was like, oh. And that's when you know this movie was like, okay, there's more of this than it seems. Like, okay, we're getting into the nitty-gritty stuff. And then Fontaine, like you said, sticking to routines, hits up Slick Charles again.
Yet again.
Brother. And he was like, thought he was seeing a ghost.
Yeah, he was like, "Now you robbed me yesterday." Like,
you took everything, Fontaine. You took it.
But then went to the same spot where he knew it was at. He was like, come on now.
And they had you looking like 50 Cent. Just, you ain't live it.
Curtis Jackson.
Oh, man. And it was funny. And then at that point, you're like, oh, wait, something mysterious is going on here. And then you had Yo-Yo, played by Teyonah Parris, one of Slick Charles' hoes. She's getting out the game. She's going to go to Memphis, do her own thing. Yeah. She's like, oh, I saw some weird stuff going down at this little trap house around the corner. They go there. They looking through. They find a secret elevator in a closet. And like,
oh,
man. And then they go down the elevator. A whole secret laboratory and stuff, man. The things that, you know, you hear on the streets of just people saying like, hey, man, they are here. Like, who is they? This shadow government. And then it's just these people underground doing something. They run to a scientist. Slick Charles, a little scared.
Yeah. Oh, man, that was hilarious. Because they first got off the elevator. They see dude. Was it Michael Jackson? It was little Michael Jackson.
He was Michael Jackson looking. Yeah, he was listening to Michael Jackson song.
That brother was getting boogied down up in there. And then, how'd y'all get up in here? And of course, you know,
things happen. Scientists don't end up making it.
He will not be in Cloned Tyrone 2.
No, and then from there, the movie kind of just devolves into figuring out what's really going on in their hood. And it touches on a lot of like fears and like that like mysterious and like feeling of like, you know, in the black community, everybody's like, oh man, the government's watching us. They're always doing something to us.
Yeah.
And this movie kind of like personifies that paranoia. And it's like, actually, what if this is actually going down in your hood? And so all these things that they're doing experiments, putting in the hair products, in the food, everything that the day-to-day black community consumes is something that is used to subjugate them and like keep them oppressed and docile.
And it's like well-founded paranoia too, because if you look at everything that was going down, they had, because it was in the black church with David Allen Greer as the hilarious preacher.
Oh yes,
hilarious. It was in the church. It was in the chicken. It was in
the hair products.
The hair products, that's right. And then also in the music, the way that they used them to control the music. Now, I thought that would, I ain't gonna stick on that too long, but
that was really good too.
That was very masterful. That was masterful, the way to weave that in. So,
and this entire movie is just, it gives you a different lens about like what it is, or like what black culture is, and like how easily it can be co-opted to attack black people. And as this movie is about, you're like, what? Like in this movie, They Cloned Tyrone is just about people just trying to control the black experience and the black populace in this thing. And it's not a newfound thing.
No.
I mean, there is actual history in the government tampering with black communities. I mean, you look at the crack epidemic, and crack just didn't magically show up in black neighborhoods, and
crack was not
stuff was planted.
Crack was not found outside of somebody's project building.
No,
it was not.
And you see that instance, and so to see like, oh man, there's just like shadow government underground in this hood, like doing these things, all of a sudden don't seem that far fetched. And so this movie goes around, they're exploring all these different things that like they think are their day to day, and just seeing how it's used to like keep them down and subjugate it. Yeah. And then when they go into the lab and stuff, Fontaine, he starts seeing all of his clones. And Fontaine isn't the only person with clones. Slick Charles has clones of himself. And later in the film, they get to like the big like reveal at the end. It turns out Fontaine, the original Fontaine, I don't remember his name, but the Fontaine #1, the original, he was like, I have created all of you. I have partnered with these people to create a better version of the black community, aka just like a genocidal, like an ethnic cleansing as such, because you look back and then he's like, yeah, I have to breed out all the bad things, the quote unquote bad things that are a part of the black community. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to breed this out. And that's why you get those weird looking dudes with the fros everywhere.
And I'm glad you said that, because that struck me differently when I saw it. Not like in a disagreeing way, but like because I watched this with my family. When we saw that it was a clone of Tyrone or OG Fontaine.
Yeah.
But like, it was really like, oh, he's black. And then that really put a whole nother like layer over the whole movie, because I'm like, that is how sometimes it goes.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see that like the main antagonist is a black man himself.
Yes.
Because this all started because he saw his own brother die to the hands of police violence. He saw his little brother get killed by a cop. Yeah. And this is the only reason why he went down this path. And it's crazy to see that his thought process, I'm like, all right, this is how I solve it, is to fix my entire race, because it seems like we're the problem. If we get rid of this, nobody other siblings have to die. Are we going to be ourselves anymore? No, but I guess we won't experience any loss. And that's kind of the weird twisted way he got to that.
Yeah. Which is a loss of the culture in and of itself. So it's like the only way to save us is to eradicate us from within. But then when you eradicate us from within, we are just people that are not. We are just like some dark-skinned individuals.
Yeah, and just and like you could see in like all the people like the light skin with the fros and like like you when you see these individuals on screen, because it's like white people with like black hair fros at this point. Yeah. And it's just so like jarring and weird.
It was.
And every character that sees them and like interacts with them is like, that man's weird. Like that's weird. That's a weird looking brother right there. Like there's something off about them. And like, of course there's something off about them, because they are like the new generation of quote unquote black people that are more docile, easily controllable, and things like that. Which was fascinating to see in this film. Yeah. But also, this film is still funny.
Oh, look, I have not laughed and also been on an emotional roller coaster with a movie like that in quite some time. It was the way that, and it's seamless. It's not like slapstick humor. It's not like trying to just do some one-offs. Like, it's actually, and maybe because it's relatable, and maybe you could, feel that, but it was just like, these are certain situations that I can understand happening, and I've seen happen, and I've also been there. But the way that they just seamlessly, like, just have this banter, it's like the three of them, Slick Charles, Yo-Yo, and Fontaine, like, it's almost just like watching three siblings just try to figure out what is going on in their world.
Yeah, and they just all of a sudden have created this motley crew of just like, we the Scooby-Doo gang all of a sudden. We're investigating. What was the book that she was reading?
Oh, was it something with
Nancy Drew?
Nancy Drew, yeah.
She was reading like, what that Nancy Drew chick do in the books? Like, which is also, I know, like getting on the Nancy Drew thing. Yeah. Yo-Yo's character is also another interesting reflective of the black community and like what that culture kind of does to a promising young woman. Yes. Because you go into they run to Yo-Yo's house when she was living with her grandmother, which is not that far-fetched in our day-to-day lives. Living with your grandparents, having your grandparents raise you in the black community is something that is
almost as common as staying with your parents.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. And like, you go to her room is very nice. She has a stack of books, achievements, accolades, all just everywhere. Beautiful. But yet she's on the streets, and they don't touch on that in the film, but it is the environmental storytelling letting you know how she got to this point. Very promising young individual, but a very promising young individual in a place that does not inspire growth. She is going to be consumed by her environment, and as such she was. And you could see the difference of her environment in her room and the outside of her hood. Very two different places.
Stark.
Like they don't belong.
Very bright.
Yes.
I remember it was like a yellowish theme that they had in her room, and I was just like, wow, it is very colorful. It is very lively, very promising, and I'm glad you said that because it's like
you go out of that room and like
back to the dark, muted colors of the hood, and I was like, that is. I'm glad you brought that up. You're like, yeah,
and it's just something. It's something that I picked up on. I was like, okay, and like, there's no need to explain this. There's no need for them to have a conversation. It was like, what went wrong? Yeah. They know what went wrong. Fontaine knows what went wrong. Slick Charles knows what went wrong. He knows exactly how she got into his fold. Yeah. And it's just one of those things that are just not need to be said.
Wow. Dang. Good point. I forgot about that. Because that did throw us off. Like, this is a beautiful, promising room in a dark world. Like, makes sense.
Yeah, and then as the story progressed, they keep like investigating this thing, and they end up finding like this lab, and they end up getting in this big chase, and all of a sudden this big mysterious man in a black suit shows up and says some like sleeper word, and like
Olivia Black. That's what it was.
No, Sierra Black.
Oh, it was Olivia Black.
Olivia Black.
Olivia Black.
Okay, I thought it was Sierra Black. Okay, he said Olivia Black, and like Slick Charles, Fontaine locked up. Yo-Yo doesn't, because she is not worthy of keeping. She does not help keep this environment unstable. You know, pimps, dope dealers, like they keep the environment unstable. They keep your environment unhealthy, and they need them, like I said in the film, to keep this environment the same. Because if this environment was to ever get good, then more money would come in. Gentrification, unfortunately, would come in, and then their entire control, their control environment, they're like they're doing an experiment, gets ruined. And so they're like, no, we need these guys to keep the property value down, to keep people from coming in here and looking at this place, turning a blind eye, so we can keep doing what we're gonna do. Yeah. And so after Fontaine and like Slick Charles get like pretty much like mind control to like follow and obey, they call it quits.
Yeah. They're done.
Yeah, Fontaine's like, I am going to go back into the system that I am familiar with. I am going to do the same things, live and repeat, because I know at the end of the day, my life is meaningless because I'll just be back here again. Because, again, I'm a clone. I'm not the original. I'm not an original person. Mm-hmm. And it was, and then, yeah, you get to that point, he goes back to the day-to-day, and he starts talking to his mom, which was that hurt me a lot.
Yo, I cried when because even before, but like when you could just hear that there was no interest on the other side of that door. Yeah. For him, because for y'all that, I haven't seen it, obviously. Throughout the whole movie, it was like his routine in the morning was like, A, ask his mom, do you want like a PB&J? Was that it?
You want some food? And then and then it would be a pause. A very unnatural pause. Yeah. It's like, would you want some food? And like waiting for like the correct response. And then she would say something. The door would never be open. No. She would just say it from the door. You would never see her, nothing. And it's like, oh, okay.
And then he would just be like, nod it, and then go about the rest of his day or whatever. And this was like, even when stuff was like getting crazy in the movie, he would still do that, which like touched me differently. But like the disinterest in those responses and the way he just took it it explains a bit of that coldness throughout the movie. Like, because Fontaine is a dynamic character, but his emotions are very subdued, and it's a very controlled rage. But with that whole, with his mom, like, because I forgot what, was it like he kept asking questions and it was the same answer? Or
he would ask questions. He was like, hey, Mom, can I talk to you? And she's like, oh, I'm trying to watch my shows. And you could, like, this is the moment where he's like reaching out to her.
He's like, Mom, I need you.
And then like, she's like, and then the response to like, it filtered again where it's like, oh, I just ate at the fish fry or whatever. Yeah. And then he bust in and nothing but a speaker in an empty room.
It was I cried.
And I'm just like, man, like, I couldn't imagine like living without my mom or whatever like that. And then just like, it just like, I don't know, I guess that would be like the breaking point for him of just like, wow, like this is like, I'm nothing but like a rat in a maze to these guys. Yeah. Like they can't. And it was just, it hit home. And then from then it was like, okay, he decided that he had enough. He was going to do something about it, and that's where we get to like the climax of the film, which I really really liked. He got everybody to come together, like
that was beautiful.
Which you see in every piece of Black culture, media, anywhere. No matter what, the Black community always finds a way to congregate and support one another. He went to the opposing drug dealer, told him about everything, and he was on board to actually solve this problem.
Yeah.
And like it's amazing what happens when you can set your differences aside and come together as a community and fight back against people that are manipulating your environment without your say. And then they all come together, riding through in their Cadillacs and whatever, storming the castle.
That was powerful right there. And honestly, the funny thing about it is, keep in mind, in the beginning of the movie, this is the same drug dealer that shot Fontaine.
Yeah, shot him up.
Like, leaked this brother. And throughout, and they show you the process of how they set it up, they're using typical acts that you would see performed in certain hoods, like down from like they had the, I don't want to call them hoes, but for this, they had the ladies of the night. They had them walking to cars and relaying the messages and stuff like that. And they would look like they're doing, normally what they do, but then and it was so dope. They had the girl like,
pretending to provide services,
and then the whole time she's just like telling them what to do and what to say, and like the negotiating part of it, and it's just like, it was just really, I was like,
it's really smart, and it just shows you it's like this community is like when given the means to and like having something to a common goal, like these guys come together real quick, and it was very funny when him and the dude with the broken leg were like rehearsing scripts, like. Nah, man, that wasn't it, man. That wasn't I didn't believe it, man. And that's another little like funny little part. Like this is a very like intense. Like man, they're gathering the gang up, but like they find these little moments in time to like throw a little joke in there. Like, man, I didn't really feel it. I didn't really feel like the emotion of like you didn't sound like you didn't believe what he was saying. It was very funny.
I love that part because it's like he's like I want to get this right. Like this is bigger than us. This is bigger than us all.
But they all gather around, get together, and then they storm the castle, and then they have the big showdown, the big reveals and all that. And at the end of it, they release all the clones and stuff, and the news starts showing up, and that's another funny thing, when things break down in the hub, what's gonna happen? You got people that go around just acting kind of crazy, like, yo, man, they got clones out here and stuff, man. Hey, what's going on? It's a secret government down here, man.
Real.
and then it's just so funny. And you see this news break across around the United States because, like, their hood isn't the only place these experiments are going down in. And you realize that as you get to the end of the film and you see John Boyega's character again, but this isn't Fontaine. Who is it? It's Tyrone.
It's brother Tyrone.
And he's sitting there on the couch in like a hood in Compton, just sitting there. And then one of the friends and one of the clones walks across the screen, and one of the friends like, hey man, Tyrone.
That look like you.
And just
cause my aunt watched this first and she was like, cause we were like, who's Tyrone? She was like, just wait till the very end. And I'm thinking it's gonna be like an ending scene or something. Yeah. Literally the very last line, because we was looking, he was like, Tyrone, that look like you. We all got up off the couch. We clapped.
It was a good movie. Like, it was a good one. It's a good movie on Netflix. And so, I mean, that is pretty much it. We're touching on all these things. So I highly recommend you go see that. Speaking of recommendations,
please,
we're going to get into the grading scale of this. At the end of every episode, I'm going to give you a grading scale. Do I recommend it? Do I not recommend it? Do I sort of recommend it? So me personally, I recommend this movie. I definitely recommend you find time out in the day, on a weekend or whatever. Watch this movie on Netflix. They Cloned Tyrone. Definitely a highly recommend from me. Jeezy, what do you think?
Well, absolutely. I'm echoing that. Like, please carve out time to watch this movie. And if you can, please watch it. If you can't relate to the environment, the lifestyle, please watch it with almost like you would watch any other thing on Netflix that would, kind of like a Black Mirror thing. Because it took me a while to think about it, because I was like, this is literally coming from a whole different world for a lot of people. This
Yeah.
isn't like your Boys in the Hood biopic where it's like by the T how it goes. But this is really a lot of people's reality. And if you approach it from a sense of, okay, this is not my world, let me see how things can be.
Yeah.
It will really give you a different perspective and not seem so zany. Because a lot of the jokes, a lot of the stuff, it's funny because we know it's true.
Yes.
So,
again, highly recommend from me and Jeezy.
You've been listening to In Post. If you like what you heard, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps the podcast grow. Thank you. You've been listening to In Post.